Really quick, everybody, this entire vid will be timestamped, so if you don't want to watch the whole thing and just get straight into a different fight, please check the pinned comment or the little red bar right down below you. Again, this entire vid will be timestamped, and I appreciate you guys watching whatever part that you liked. And if you're sticking around, everybody, hello and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels, and welcome back to another full card breakdown and prediction for you guys. This is where I go through every single fight. You guys have watched these videos before. We take a look at every single fight. I give my predictions. I'm going to tell you what fights that I am betting on, if I am betting on any, and it's just a lot of fun that we have doing. I've been off, for those of you who follow the channel. I've been off for a little bit. I've been under the weather. I got married, so we're back. We're rolling. We're going to be taking a look at every single UFC card from this point forward. I won't keep you. Let's get into the first fight for today. Starting off with the first fight, guys, this should be really fun. We have Daniel Santos versus Johnny Munoz Jr. This is a great fight to start off the card because this is a tough fight to predict. We have Daniel Santos and Johnny Munoz Jr., who are both great fighters on the ground. If I had to guess, Santos is okay kind of fighting everywhere, but Johnny Munoz will want this fight on the ground. And Munoz, I would say, has a little bit of the edge in the grappling department, but Daniel Santos, and this is the reason that I'm going to pick him to win, is because Santos is one of those guys who, first of all, has no problem throwing himself in the fight, which is, it's okay for some fighters, but this dude is one of those guys who, no matter what happens to him so far, he doesn't go anywhere. No matter how hard you try to put him out, this dude has no quit in him. From what we've seen so far, he's lost a couple times. There's no quit in him, and no matter what you do to him, he is always in your face, continuously attacking. Those guys are very, very scary, in my opinion. That's why I'm going to go with Daniel Santos. And now it is still fairly early in both these fighters' careers, so what I'm saying here could not age well eventually, but from what we've seen so far, this dude's a little bit like a zombie, Daniel Santos, and I like him. I'm going to pick him to win this fight. However, the possibility of him getting submitted is there. I don't see it. No matter what he does, I feel like Johnny Munoz, because he's incredible on the ground, I feel like Santos will be able to scramble out of it. And on the feet, Santos will have a little bit more of an edge. Munoz will go in there trying to just throw bombs and close the gap, while Santos does have a lot more technique, but lacks a little bit of power in that department. So the possibility to get chin is always there, especially as someone who enjoys throwing himself into the fight like Daniel Santos does. I'm going to pick him to win, though. I think that no matter what happens, he's going to survive, and he's going to continue to win. He's going to be on a 2-fight win streak. Moving on to the next fight, we have Joseph Holmes versus Claudio Ribeiro. And now, this is a tough pick. This is a really tough pick because Claudio, he's one of those guys that, and I was a little bit surprised to see him lose his last fight, okay? He looked okay in his last fight before he did get finished. He's one of those guys that is so big, so powerful, and he's just like, he makes himself giant in that octagon, marches forward, and just wants to impose his will, and he has that power where he could just knock you out with both hands, okay? Will he be able to do that? That's the thing. And Joseph Holmes is a very good striker. He's very well-rounded, Joseph Holmes, and he's coming off of a loss, and I don't remember who that... Oh, Johnny Park, yes. Okay, I forgot about that fight, and it was 5 months ago. I was just like, who did he lose to? Anyways, he has a few different paths to victory. He could go in, get a takedown. He has a little bit of a reach advantage, but he doesn't really use that too much. He could try and dance around Claudio Ribeiro and outstrike him. He probably is a little bit more technical in that sense, but will he be able to? Will Claudio be able to just march forward and do what he wants to do and is just knock you out? If I had to put money on it, I'm kind of like 60-40 on this fight, guys. I would say that Claudio will take this fight because even in his last loss, he did look good beforehand, and I don't know if I like mine. If you're looking for an underdog, actually, it's like not too bad of a pick. Like I said, I'm like 60-40 on this one. And you never know. Once a guy gets chin, maybe he gets chin. So, Claudio Ribeiro, it's tough. It's tough. I don't know how this fight's going to go. Will Holmes just back up and go, okay, I'm here, I'm fighting your fight, Claudio Ribeiro, and will he just suffer in that sense? That's why it's a little bit of a tough pick. I will pick Claudio because I feel like he will be able to, and yeah, Holmes has a little bit of a reach advantage, but he doesn't typically use that reach advantage too well. I think Ribeiro is going to come back with a vengeance and try to get the knockout. He's probably going to do it. I like him in this division. So, tough fight. 60-40. I'm going with Claudio to win this one. Moving on to the next fight, we have a guy that I always feel bad for. Zhalgas Zhumagulov versus Rafael Estevam. Now, here's the thing. If you guys don't know Zhalgas, he is coming off of a rough go. Okay, and this is why I feel bad for him. He's 1-5 in his last fight. However, 3 of these fights could have went the other way in decisions. Like, especially these two. And there was one of them, I don't remember, I think it was his last fight, where he came off the decision and he was like even complaining about the judges because they keep not going his way. It's like a little bit of a meme, like when you get into like hardcore MMA fans where it's like the judges hate this dude, who knows why. But yeah, like truthfully, those fights could have gone either way, and we could be looking at one loss in his last 5 instead. You know what I mean? So it's tough, and he's a good fighter. Okay, he didn't get dominated in any of those fights. He goes in, and he's fighting Rafael Estevam here, where both of them will probably try to get the takedown. It's just, I don't know who will be better at the wrestling game. Or I know Rafael will probably try to go for some trips, but when you're fighting a guy like Zhumagulov, I don't know if it'll work. Like, this 14-8 record is extremely, extremely deceiving. If I had to guess, because they both probably will come in with like some sort of the same game plan where it's like, hey, they probably want their opponent on the ground. But that's the thing. It's like they're both not necessarily totally well-rounded, but Estevam is 11-0, has his TKO wins, and you don't see the same on the other side here, and that's why I might have to go with Estevam to win this fight. It's a tough fight for me. I just don't know how those grappling exchanges are going to go. And even if, because Zhalgas was really, really upset after his last fight, who knows if he is just going to keep doing this for another paycheck, because he was considering retirement. Either that or in the moment where he was just really, really angry. Who knows how much energy he's still putting into the game at this point. He's 34 years old. Who knows if he's just here for one more paycheck? What if he gets another split decision loss? I'm not so confident in how he's going to come and approach this fight. That's why I am leaning towards Rafael Estevam, but I don't know. I think it matters mostly how these grappling exchanges will go, and I don't know who's going to win those. Because we know that there's going to be takedowns thrown here. It's just who's going to get the better of them. I will go with Rafael to win this fight, though, although I am not sure one bit. Moving on to the next fight, we got another UFC debut of Ikram Aliskerov versus Phil Hawes. Now, this is a little bit of a tough fight to get for your UFC debut, and that's why I'm like, So, Ikram, the game plan's very simple. Grab you, take you down, beat you up, choke you, submit you. You know, he's 30 years old, looked great so far. Phil Hawes, though, that's a tough man to get on your UFC debut. I want to say that Phil Hawes will get strangled. Okay, but how many times have we seen these hype trains come into the UFC just to get clipped by somebody like Phil Hawes? You know what I mean? Oh, man, there's some tough fights on this card. I don't know. It all matters is, like, is he going to live up to the moment? Because I like the matchup. He looks like he's a real insane grappler. He looks strong. He's in his prime. Phil Hawes, though, he's a great fighter. Been in there with some great fighters. 34 years old, starting to get out of his prime now. Coming off a rough loss. I don't see Phil Hawes getting chinned, although Phil Hawes has been chinned before. We don't really know this dude's power yet. Has he had any KOs in the past? Yeah, it's been 3 years since his last KO win. I don't know, because will Phil Hawes be able to defend the takedown? That's the big question. Like we were just talking about with another fight. Will Phil Hawes be able to defend the takedown? Will he be able to stay on the outside? He has like barely a reach advantage and just clock him. I think Ikram, if you had a gun to my head, I'd say Ikram would be able to get a hold of him. But it's tough with these UFC debuts. There's a lot of factors coming into it. Like, will he be nervous? Who knows? Will the moment get to him? It's a big card on a big stage. If I would go with Ikram, but we've seen this happen time and time again where hype train just gets derailed by a guy like Phil Hawes, especially. Phil, a lot of experience, like I said. Tough fight. I'm going to lean towards Ikram, but I'm not sure about this one either. Moving on to this next fight, and it should be fire. We've got Parker Porter taking on UFC newcomer Braxton Smith. Now, guys, if you don't know Braxton Smith, very, very fun fighter. There's not a lot of technique behind his punches, but he comes in swinging, and he's strong. That's the game plan. I feel like he might be able to get it done against Parker Porter. Parker Porter, yeah, you know what? His record's spotty. Okay, he's very quick for a heavyweight. He definitely has the heart of a heavyweight, you know what I mean? But the problem is, I don't like that he's 38 years old right now. He's coming off of 2 really tough losses. And you know what? Jailton Almeida, a lot of people think this is the future of the division, right? No shame in losing that. And Justin Tafa, anything can happen at heavyweight, you know what I mean? Even if you don't think Justin Tafa is necessarily a great heavyweight, it's just anything can happen at division. And Parker Porter, that's my problem, you know what I mean? Because his wins, I don't want to say he has pillow hands because he's a heavyweight, but for the division, he kind of does. you know? And Braxton Smith is one of those guys who doesn't. I feel like they're going to get into an exchange, and Braxton Smith is just going to start swinging and catch Parker Porter. That's how I see the fight going. I like Parker Porter. He's always fun to watch, but I'm not overly impressed by him. And with 38 years old, only getting older now, I know you can get away with that at heavyweight. And Braxton Smith, again, we don't know how he's going to do in the UFC. You know what I mean? He might come in, get destroyed. But I got to go with him this time around. I can't rely on Parker Porter to get a win here. I got to go with Braxton Smith to get a knockout. Moving on to the next fight, we have Marina Rodriguez, who I feel like I haven't seen in a little while. How long has it been? 5 months? I guess 6 months. Maybe she's just been active before that. How long has it been? Yeah, I guess she was just a little bit more active. Maybe, I don't know. Regardless. Virna Jandiroba, and I always pronounce that name wrong. Excuse me. Now, I think this is an easy fight to pick, to be honest with you, but it's women's MMA, and anything could happen in women's MMA. Now, Virna, game plan's very easy to no secrets about it. She'll come in throwing shots with the goal of getting a takedown and trying to submit you. Will she do that against Marina Rodriguez? I don't believe so. But again, like I said, I never bet on women's MMA. Anything could happen, right? Marina Rodriguez coming off of a horrible loss. Well, it's not like it wasn't a horrible loss, but like she got finished in that fight. So that's a little bit of an issue. But before that, she's looked fantastic. Looked absolutely fantastic. And even the losses over here on the other side, they have aged very well. But at the same time, I think Marina Rodriguez is just a better fighter. Gonna pick her apart. I think she'll be able to avoid the takedowns and possibly get a TKO victory. I like Marina Rodriguez a lot in this one. But again, anything could happen in women's MMA. Moving on to the next fight, Khaos Williams versus Rolando Bedoya. Now, I hate to say it, but this one seems like an easy one to me, and I feel like the odds should be even a little bit more. Khaos Williams, yeah, he's coming off of a loss, but even then, he looked good in that loss. You know what I mean? He looked good in that loss against Randy Brown. Not looked great, but you know what I mean? We've seen Khaos Williams look better in fights. I think this is going to be an easy fight to predict. We have Rolando Bedoya, who lacks the power that Khaos Williams has. He has very good combinations. He'll be able to circle around. I can see a world where he'll dance around Khaos Williams for 3 rounds and get a decision victory, but I feel like that's his only path to victory because, again, very, very good striker, but he doesn't have the power necessary to put out a guy like Khaos Williams, but Khaos Williams does have that power. Over the course of 3 rounds, I feel like Khaos Williams will land that nuclear power that he has because he does have that insane power. Bedoya will try to do what he does, like I said, and circle around, hit with combinations. He'll be probably successful in like maybe the first little bit, but then I can see Khaos Williams just clipping him. All he needs to do is land one shot. This is a really, really tough fight to come into the UFC for Khaos Williams, and I think Khaos Williams is going to get it done. I just see that path going. I can see Bedoya looking good until he runs into a shot from Khaos Williams. That's my prediction. I got Khaos Williams in this fight. Moving on to the next fight. This one should be a little bit fun. Devin Clark versus Kennedy, and I apologize. I always pronounce his name wrong. Nzechuku. Again, I'm sorry about that. So, I think this fight is another one like where I could just see this fight, how it's going to play out. It's just I have a little bit of a specific prediction. I have Devin Clark. Maybe he'll get in. He'll be able to get a takedown. And then Kennedy is one of those guys who, no matter where he is in the fight, you can't count him out. He has insane power. He showed so in his last fight. I like Devin Clark as a fighter, but has a little bit of a spotty record, of course. Same with Kennedy here, you know what I mean? Coming off, he had 2 really tough losses. Now he's coming off of 2 really, really nice wins. Again, one of those fighters, inconsistent, but you could never count him out. Devin Clark, about the same thing. While both fighters have been inconsistent, I don't like how Devin Clark has been a little bit more inconsistent. Of course, you can tell by the records here. But Kennedy, like no matter what happens in that fight, I feel like Kennedy over the course of 3 rounds, and the only problem with it is he can be gun-shy at times, but I feel like over the course of 3 rounds, and Devin Clark, I don't imagine finishing him. No matter what happens, I feel like Kennedy will catch him at some point and will put him out. I just have a vision that Devin Clark might go out in this fight. So I'm going with Kennedy to win this fight. I'm kind of like 80-20 on this one. I'm definitely not betting on this fight, but Kennedy's my pick to win this one. Moving on to the next fight, and I would imagine this could be fight of the night, guys. Drew Dober versus Matt Frevola. Drew Dober is one of my favorite fighters to watch. Of course, like he's probably like a lot of people's favorite fighters to watch, Drew Dober, okay? So I promise you, I'm not going to be biased in my pick. I am picking Drew Dober to win this fight, though. Matt Frevola, okay? Flying a little bit under the radar. However, in his last win against Ottman Azaitar, I was so sure Ottman was going to win that fight, and man, did Frevola show his power. Put him out cold. Drew Dober, though, coming off of 3 fantastic wins. fantastic wins. And we all know Drew Dober. Drew Dober throws himself into a firefight, take one to give you one. He does such a good job at bringing people into his world, which is a brawl, and he more often than not comes out on top of those brawls. So Matt Frevola, which is interesting because Matt Frevola has some insane power. I would argue that he has more power than his last few opponents, you know? And no matter who's getting the win, like the upper hand on Drew Dober, you can never count Drew Dober out. Listen, one of these days, Drew Dober's chin is going to go. Will it be this fight? I don't think so. He's still looking good, but it's kind of one of those things that chin will just go. He's going to get cracked, and we're going to go, oh my God, Drew Dober just got knocked out, and then he can never take a punch again. That day's coming. I don't think that day is today, and that's why I'm picking him over Matt Frevola, because Matt Frevola also has a it's not like I'm saying Drew Dober has a sloppy stand-up game, but Matt Frevola kind of does. He does have takedowns in his back pocket, doesn't like to use them. He comes in, throws, he has no problem throwing haymakers, even sometimes you see those like weird like back fists that he throws. Drew Dober is more of a calculated chaos, kind of like how Dustin Poirier is. I think Drew Dober will get the better of these exchanges, but Matt Frevola does have that power who can change anybody. I can see Drew Dober getting rocked. I can see Drew Dober getting hurt in this fight, but ultimately coming out on top as Drew Dober does. I like the win streak that he's on right now. I'm high on Drew Dober. I think, truthfully, he's an underrated fighter. I think he's great. That chin's going to go one day, but I don't think it is now. He's still looking good. I'm picking Drew Dober to win this fight against Matt Frevola. Moving on to the next fight, we have the return of Kron Gracie versus the always fun Charles Jourdain. I love watching Charles Jourdain fight. Now, Kron Gracie, it's been a long time since he fought, but I don't know how. 3 years, 6 months against Cub Swanson. That is insane. I remember that fight, and he didn't look good. He didn't even try to grapple against Cub Swanson, and that was kind of like his first real test. The Alex Caceres win has aged very well, but still, at the same time, at the end of the day, back then, it was Alex Caceres as he was, so how can you really hold that against him? Charles Jourdain coming off of 2 tough losses, but against very, very good fighters. Before that, looked great, and Charles Jourdain is a very fun fighter, great cardio, great, he's a pretty well all-rounded fighter. The problem is he's going up against a Gracie, and if Kron does want to take this to the ground, I would imagine Gracie would have the advantage. But of course, I don't know. He's coming into an MMA fight, and we did see his first test against Cub Swanson, and I feel like he is fighting somebody kind of like on that same level where it's like Kron's coming in. He's not just fighting a guy and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but these other wins are what can you say about them? You know what I mean? Charles Jourdain is a very, 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 very tough test. And yes, he's coming off of 2 losses, but I feel like the odds are proper here at the minus 200 level. I feel like if the problem is, will Kron Gracie even try to grapple? Because he didn't against Cub Swanson. He just got frustrated, and Cub Swanson kind of picked him apart. I see that same thing happening with Charles Jourdain. Apparently, Kron Gracie has been away all this time improving his striking, but ring rust is a real thing. He's now 34 years old. He's out of his prime. I got to go with the younger guy, the more talented guy. I got to go with Charles Jourdain in this fight. I think he's going to get the win. Will he finish it? I doubt it, because Kron Gracie showed how tough he is. But I'm going to pick Charles Jourdain by decision in this one. Always fun to watch him fight. Moving on to the next fight, Movsar Evloev versus Bryce Mitchell. I don't know how this fight is going to go at all. Bryce Mitchell coming off of a horrible loss against Ilia Topuria. Now, this is something that myself and a lot of other people saw coming. It was just a bad matchup for Bryce Mitchell. I did not see any way he would win that fight. But before that, Bryce Mitchell has looked fantastic. Fantastic. And against decent competition, too. Like Edson Barboza's arguably his best win. Movsar Evloev, though. Oh, my God. 16-0. Looking great. The chain wrestling is just on another level. His control, his aggression. He's a great fighter. Problem is, he's taking this fight on short notice. How in shape is he to keep going with that style, the pressure that he always puts on? I would imagine he's in shape. I would imagine he's one of those guys that stays in shape, especially coming out of these camps here. I don't know how this is going to go. This is a coin flip 50-50 fight for me. Because Bryce Mitchell has that amazing ground game as well. This fight's going to go to the ground. Who's going to have the advantage on the ground? I have no clue. I don't even know where to begin, because I could see Evloev going for the takedown, Bryce Mitchell throwing up some things from guard, Bryce Mitchell maybe transitioning on the ground, landing up on top. I don't know. I have zero breakdown for you guys on this fight. If you had a gun to my head, I would go with Movsar because Bryce Mitchell, who knows where his headspace is at, coming off of that horrible, horrible loss, his first loss ever. But sometimes we see people improve after the loss. I don't know. Please let me know in the comments down below what you guys pick for this fight because, man, this is a tough fight to pick. And I have no clue who's going to win it. Moving on to the next fight, we have Jessica Andrade versus, and I apologize for pronouncing this name wrong, Xiaonan. And now, something important to note, Jessica Andrade went up to flyweight, had a horrible loss against Erin Blanchfield, and she's coming back down to strawweight where she looks good. She looks powerful, and I don't have too much to say about this fight. I feel like she's going to go in. Excuse me, I just spit on my monitor. That's gross. I think she's going to come in. I think she's going to clock Jan. I think that she doesn't offer too much for Jessica Andrade hasn't seen, winning by decision. Her losses have aged okay, like against two great fighters. But at the same time, Jessica Andrade, especially at this strawweight weight class, if your name's not Rose Namajunas or Wei Li Zhang, I think Jessica Andrade is going to blow through you. And that's why I'm going to pick her to win this fight. I think she's going to get a finish. I think it just doesn't, again, she doesn't show anything that Andrade hasn't seen. I think Andrade, especially at this weight class, is going to find that finish. Moving on to the co-main event, and this is a fight that was on like 14 days notice, so something that we need to talk about. Belal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns. Are they both in shape? I know Muhammad is questionable because I know he was saying like, oh, I know that he was tweeting about, okay, I'm going to be ready here and there, Maybe he wasn't ready for this fight. But I would imagine, I don't know, because he's like one of those guys like Gilbert Burns who will take a fight against anybody. He's been taking fights against great fighters when he arguably already deserves a title fight. Gilbert Burns is definitely in shape. The guy's been looking fantastic. He's been insanely active. That's something to take into consideration, okay? When looking at this fight, I feel like I want to say Gilbert Burns is just going to do what Gilbert Burns does. I think he's going to outstrike him, probably finish him. But here's the thing. When picking Belal Muhammad's fights, let's take a look at his last fights. He's 22-3. A record that's just been flying completely under the radar, okay? Sean Brady. I picked against him. I picked Sean Brady to win this fight. Belal Muhammad gets a finish. Vicente Luque. I'm like, Vicente Luque. He'll put on a striking clinic against Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad won. Stephen Thompson. I think Stephen Thompson will be able to keep him on the outside and do what Stephen Thompson does. Belal Muhammad won. Damian Maia, I don't remember what I picked for that. But these last three fights, it's not necessarily a Sean Brady fight, but these two in particular, Vicente Luque and Stephen Thompson, and this isn't an old Stephen Thompson. We just saw how he looked against Kevin Holland. The dude's winning, and he's winning dominantly. So I'm thinking in the back of my head, like, am I going to pick Gilbert Burns in this fight just for Belal Muhammad to win again? That's where I'm kind of at with this fight. Because I think that Gilbert Burns will be able to stuff any takedowns that Belal Muhammad presents, and Gilbert Burns will hit harder, and he'll be more accurate. I feel like Gilbert Burns will get a finish on the feet. But Belal Muhammad's just been winning and winning and winning. That's what's tough about it. Something that is on Gilbert Burns' side is that obviously, like I just mentioned, he's going to be in way better shape. Short notice fight. And Belal Muhammad is a pressure fighter. Will he be able to keep up that pace for over 3 rounds? It's questionable, and I'm not sure. Gilbert Burns, he just looks so good in his last 2 fights. I got to pick him. But even like in Khamzat Chimaev, you could argue that he won that fight. I don't think he won that fight, but he still looked good as Stock Rose, Stephen Thompson, and even Kamaru Usman. He's the guy that rocked Kamaru Usman. I think Gilbert Burns is going to win this fight. I think that he is going to be better on the feet. I think he's going to win any grappling exchanges that Belal Muhammad presents. But Belal Muhammad, I don't know if he's actually still training with Khabib, now that I mention it. I know for his last fight, he was training with Khabib for a little while. Regardless, I still got to go with Gilbert Burns. The dude's been active. He's hungry. He's one of the hungriest fighters we've ever seen right now. He's a true BMF. I think Gilbert Burns will do it. I think he'll take him out. I want to say by finish too. But like I just said, I keep picking against Belal Muhammad, and he keeps proving me wrong. So who knows what's going to happen. But I got Gilbert Burns to win this fight. Moving on to the main event, Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo. The return of Henry Cejudo. The odds are near even for this fight. Here's the problem, okay? Henry Cejudo, he's one of my favorite fighters. I love watching him. I love his cringe gimmick. I think he's hilarious. I love his YouTube channel too. However, I just cannot see him getting a win here. He's been off for too long. I think it's been about 3 years, 2 years, 11 months since Dominic Cruz. I thought it was more than that for some reason. Regardless, this would be a different story if Henry Cejudo wasn't 36 years old now. I know he stopped, I don't know to what extent he stopped training, but he got into coaching. He hasn't been training seriously, we do know that. Over these years, he got married. I don't know if he had a kid, but he's been taking time off and living his life. He's retired. He retired and was living the retired life. Whether or not you think that retirement was sincere or not, he was sure behaving like he was. Aljamain Sterling, on the other hand, has been active and fighting. The problem is, and we talk about it so many times with Aljamain Sterling, with his past title wins, there have been like some sort of asterisk next to it. Like you take a look at TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw had one arm. Petr Yan, he could have lost that fight. Then you move on to another Petr Yan. Illegal knee. You know what I mean? And you have to go back to his Corey Sandhagen win, which was almost 3 years ago, to find a win without asterisks towards it. Now people take this and go, oh my God, well, you just don't like Aljamain Sterling. You aren't like acknowledging him as champion. I think those are really fair points to make. And we haven't seen him fight somebody like, besides Petr Yan in this second fight, which he almost lost. You know? It's just really, really tough. That's why. But he is an underrated champion. He has a serious skill set. And how's that? Like, he's bigger than Henry Cejudo. He'll have a better, longer reach. I've doubted Henry Cejudo, like we were just talking about with Belal Muhammad. I doubted Henry Cejudo so many times, and that's why I'm hesitant to pick Aljamain Sterling. I would bet on Aljamain Sterling if it wasn't for this. Like, if you take a look at all of Henry Cejudo's losses, the Dominic Cruz one, the wins. The Dominic Cruz one, I don't remember who I thought would win this fight. Marlon Moraes, I was so sure, and this is back when Marlon Moraes was good. Marlon Moraes, I was like, this isn't going to be a fight. He's going to kill Henry Cejudo, which for the first little bit, like Marlon Moraes does, he was. TJ Dillashaw, I was like, no chance. I lost a lot of money on that fight. Demetrius Johnson, I was like, Henry Cejudo is not going to beat Demetrius Johnson, especially after the first one. And Sergio Pettis, great win. Henry Cejudo calls himself the greatest combat sports athlete of all time, and I might have to agree with him. The problem is, I would pick Henry Cejudo in this fight if he didn't have all that time off. Ring rust is real, and I don't know how serious he's been training. He's not in his prime anymore. Who knows if he can take the same amount of shot. If he wants to take this fight to the ground, Aljamain Sterling might be able to scramble onto his back. That's what I see. That's what I see happening in this fight. Striking-wise, I mean, I don't really know. But both of them have really good chins. But I just worry about the shape that Henry Cejudo is going to come in. I worry deeply about it. And that's why I can't pick him. I got Aljamain Sterling in this one. I think that no matter what happens, I think the striking might be back and forth, might be a little bit sloppy. But then what they will inevitably get into those grappling exchanges. But then again, I guess I shouldn't say inevitably, because how many times have we seen two grapplers come in and then just end up striking each other? In which case I would lean towards Henry Cejudo. Is Henry Cejudo built to go 5 rounds, man? I don't know. When he was competing, absolutely. But if he's coming back, man, on the other side, he must be in shape. I just have like an internal struggle believing in Henry Cejudo right now, but I feel like I should believe in Henry Cejudo. You know what I mean? But 36 years old, Father Time is undefeated. When are we going to see Henry Cejudo slow down? How I see it going, Henry Cejudo coming in, he doesn't look like the same Henry Cejudo. They get into a grappling exchange. Aljamain Sterling finds the back, and it kind of looks like the TJ Dillashaw fight. That's how I see that fight going, and that's why I'm picking Aljamain Sterling to win this fight against Henry Cejudo. However, I will be cheering for Henry Cejudo. I love Henry Cejudo. I hope to God I'm wrong in this fight. But I got Aljamain Sterling to win this one, guys. That's all I got for you, though, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. We are back. If you guys have been following the channel, been out for a little bit, we are going to be breaking down every single fight, having news recaps at the end of the week, guys. Subscribe if you are brand new. Right now on the screen for you, I will have 2 fantastic MMA videos for you to check out if you want to see more from the Clembat channel. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one. Take care.